Gonna be a pretty exciting day. I'm going to challenge myself to build a complete startup, specifically a SaaS product, within 24 hours. So if you don't know what a SaaS product is, it's a software as a service. I've seen other people build SaaS products on YouTube before in a short time frame, maybe in a 48 hours or maybe a week, but I've not seen anyone do it in 24 hours. So I'm going to challenge myself to see if it is possible to build a complete SaaS product in just 24 hours. So my plan is to build a web application that can be universally converted to an iOS app and an Android app. So it's this new trendy model where you just build once and then you can repurpose it and use it anywhere, like across the web, Windows, Mac, iOS and Android, all with just one code base. So first off, what I'm going to build is a web application that will encompass a responsive UI that will adapt to smaller screens so that I can force fit into an app that can be published to the App Store and the Android Play Store. And to make this challenge more complete, I will have to set a few requirements so that it's not like a sloppy mock-up that I just randomly built to put on my portfolio. It's going to be a full-fledged enterprise system that can be deployed, or rather I will have to deploy the website onto a server and make it available for anyone to use. So by the time this video comes out, this website should be live for you to sign up and use already. So that's number one, to deploy the web application to a server that can be used by you guys watching this video right now. Number two, it has to be production ready. So it has to come with all the rate limits, authentication, all the basic necessary stuff that makes the web application secure and have that base minimum level of foundation security there to make sure that it is production ready. And that's pretty much the only two things that I can think of. I personally haven't done deploying an app to the App Store or the Android Play Store yet using this way of building, so I'm not exactly sure if I can do that, but if I manage to do that, that would be a bonus. That would require me to have like a Apple developer program license as well as the Android developer license to publish it. And in terms of publishing, it's a bit complicated. I've done publishing before, but just not in the context of this way of building things. I'm going to solve my own problem and build an entire system based on it to solve this problem that I have. So right now, there isn't a way to track the places that you have went and the places that you want to go. Done a little bit of market research, but not really in that detail. But from what I see, I believe there are a lot of other people having the same issue as well, not having a central place to track the places that they have went, the places they want to go, making a system that can track the places that you have went before, as well as the places you want to visit. So there is currently a way to do that, but it's not very good. So this is currently the way me and my girlfriend are tracking the places that we want to visit. A list of cafes here, and we are using Google Maps to do that. So they have a map view here of all the pins, the places that we have added to this list, and you can create multiple lists like this. It's not very good because this search bar here is supposed to search for any place on Google Maps, but it's not a search bar to filter like your list to find certain things in this list. So let's say if I want to search for something in the list, maybe a cafe, let's say Folkyard, I will have to scroll through the entire list one by one to search where is this thing. Alright, I'm not exactly sure where is it, but you see, that's the problem. I can't find where is it just by manually scrolling here and there. Let's say we already visited like a place, right? Let's say the Lola's Cafe here. So I just click on it and this view will pop up here. We will uncheck this and remove it off this list. So this list is actually shared between me and my girlfriends. So once we remove this from this list, it's gone forever. Unless we create like a new list to say that we have went to this place. That is pretty much a workaround for that. A lot of the reviews from Google Maps come with certain benefits. Let's say maybe they provide you like a free drink and then you give them a review of the cafe and then they'll give you a free drink. And that makes the reviews on Google Maps not really reliable because they are somewhat forced to give a good review. I'm going to take it a step further by incorporating the social media element to it. Let's say you added a place to your list and then your friends or someone who follow you can see the places that you went. I'm not too sure yet, the exact details have not been planned out yet, but that is the rough plan of what I am going to do. So sometimes we see places that are recommended by other users on other social media platforms like Instagram, Lemonade, or TikTok that you see and you really want to visit. But those places just get lost in your TikTok saved feed or Instagram saved box. All these are just scattered everywhere. So the goal is to make it easy to import those places that you see on TikTok or Instagram. Just combine and pull all of the places that you want to visit into one central place to make it easy to track all these places that you want to go. So the time right now is 1:28 p.m. on a Thursday in August. So hopefully we can get this whole system running, built and deployed within the next 24 hours. That is 1:28 p.m. tomorrow on 9th of August, which is National Day for Singapore. Alright, first step. The most important step is to have a list of places that people can search on a platform. So I've done a little bit of research into it already. So the most common way, and I would say the best way, is to use Google Maps API, which can allow us to search for certain places using the autocomplete query. They can type like certain museums, and then they will just search for museums nearby their location. But this comes with a major drawback. The Google Maps API here comes with like a $200 usage, free credits every month. So the first $200 that you use calling the Google Maps API is completely free. But here's the problem. If we were to use Google Maps, it would be the Places API here, and I would say it's probably the autocomplete request here. That's 1,000 requests for $2.83. And if you scale it up like this, maybe like 100,000 requests, it gets increasingly expensive to like $280 a month. To be fair, this $200 will be covered by Google. We also have to take into account the nearby search that we might be using as well, which is this one. The details to get places nearby the user's location. That is $32 for just 1,000 requests. That is crazy. So if we scale it up to maybe just 50,000, that is really $1,000 cost just for nearby search. And furthermore, let's say we want the details of certain places. We have to query this API here to get the place details, and I'm not too sure what is the difference between all these basic, advanced, and preferred yet, but the basic is already a $17 for 1,000 requests. All these combined together makes this so unsuitable for using the Google Maps API for this use case here. We don't really have a business model in mind yet. It's just mainly to build this startup as a challenge and a platform for me to solve this problem that I have, and I want to test out the waters to see anyone is willing to pay for this or just mainly willing to use this platform, and more importantly to see if there are people out there having the same issue as I am, to see whether this idea is worth working on or not, which is important because if you can build prototypes fast, you can test out ideas that you have very quickly without wasting much time on it. So unfortunately, Google Maps is pretty good because everyone knows Google Maps, right? So let's say you register your business here. It will pretty much appear on Google. When someone searches for your business name, it will come out with a pop-up here on this site here beside your search results with a Google Maps pop-up showing the place reviews, the map, some of the address details, the business details, and all sort of stuff. So this makes Google Maps a very ideal place for small businesses to post their business details onto Google Maps. So there are other alternatives as well, and we're gonna take a look at these alternatives. So there's this alternative here called the Team, which is an open source database of all the places in the world that you can self-host by yourself and own the data. So this is actually powered by OpenStreetMap data, and they have an API here which you can only use if you are not calling it that frequently. If we were to use this, we will have to install our own, and they provide some instructions here on how we can host this database by ourselves. So in terms of the API, it is not as good as how Google Maps does it, because the only way we can search for places is by the name or the address. You can see that pretty much only the useful API that we have here is the search API, that we can search by a place using the name or type. So if you look into it, it's a free-form query where you can put in your query here into the params here, but the only thing it searches for is the name, the address, or the type. Problem with this is that there is no localization at all. So if you look at the OpenStreetMap website here, the backend of this search is actually running the Team API behind the scenes. So if we search for something here, it will call the Team API, but it doesn't have any sort of localization to it. So it pretty much just outputs the entire list of results matching the name that I got here, which is Lola, and all the places with this name, and just dump it in like that. So this makes Team not a very good option for doing this. The best part about this is that you can own the data that you host. So if you search for like a cafe called Folk Yard in Singapore, but there are no results for the one in Singapore, which means this dataset is not that good either because it's community based and it relies on a community to update this dataset. So there is another alternative here, which is called the Overture Maps Foundation. So this is an open source dataset. I believe it's from Meta, which is one of the members here. So Superbase recently made a video on this, which showed how to host the Overture Maps data along with the Proto Maps library here, which is an open source map of the world. So you can self-host this map on maybe like a Cloudflare R2 server, which will make this an extremely cheap option and alternative to Google Maps. So this is a demo built by the Superbase team. So each of these places has their own name, and then when you zoom in, it will just render more details. So let's say when you click on a place here, maybe the McDonald house here, you can see the details here, and click on more details, you'll see some other information here. So far, most of the places that I found has this source, which is Meta. So I believe this entire dataset is from Meta themselves because they have a big social media platform, right? This is honestly a pretty good solution because everything here is self-hosted and we own the data here. But in terms of getting the data updated, it's a bit difficult. So if we go to the download section here of the Overture Maps website, we can see that the latest release is actually 2024, July 22. So if you look at the history here, it gets updated once every month or so. A Python tool here for you to download the entire dataset, and I've pretty much downloaded the entire dataset from here, which is a good 38 gigabytes. But in terms of how comprehensive the dataset is, I'm not too sure about that. We can pretty much make do with this. It is definitely possible to use this, but I still don't think this is the best solution, even though it is self-hosted and we pretty much have control over the entire dataset and hosting. I'm still not 100% sure into using this as the dataset for the system yet. And here we are on the final alternative, which I think I'm going to use as the main dataset for the maps and the places. So here we are. I'm going to use Apple Maps as the main anchoring backend for the map system in my SaaS product. So here they have a few ways to consume their API. They have this map kit here, which I believe is used in the iOS Swift ecosystem. And they have another one, which is the mapkit.js, which we can use this to plug into any React, TypeScript, JavaScript app and use this across any platform. So this makes it a very suitable solution for me to have a map view that will work across every system. And they also have a server API here to get a places information. So if you look at the docs here, they have an endpoint here to search for places using autocomplete. And then they have a very comprehensive list of parameters that we can use to drill down and narrow down the search queries to localize the search results to what the user is looking for. So that is pretty much what I'm going to use. I'm going to use the Apple Maps Server API for the places dataset, as well as the mapkit.js to render the map view on the website. The only problem with using the Apple Maps API is that I need to join the Apple Developer Program, which costs 99 USD a year. So you can see on the website here, it costs 99 USD per year to join this program, which will give us the access to the Maps API. And this comes with a free daily limit of a 250,000 map views, 25,000 service calls to the API per day, which for a small platform like this, I don't think I will ever hit that amount of service calls per day at this point in time. And if we were to compare a relatively new business or a place that has just been recently constructed, so we are searching for this cafe here called One, and of course Google Maps has it, right? And if we search it up on Apple Maps here, they don't have this place yet. There is a way for businesses to add their business on Apple Maps here. And if we search on the OpenStreetMaps Nominatim API, of course they don't have it here as well. Even when this is an open source dataset that is community based, like a Wikipedia does. I'm not too sure how we can search this dataset for the place, but if the place doesn't have a Facebook page, then that's it. I don't think the place will be in the dataset at all, because the source all comes from Meta. So right now I'm still leaning towards Apple Maps because of the ease of setup, the convenience factor to search everything, having the localized search, and even though this Apple Developer Program costs $99 a year, which is in USD as well, and converted to Singapore dollars is about 150 Singapore dollars. That is about $12 a month to join the Apple Developer Program. But in the long run, I'll be publishing my apps to the App Store as well. So either way, I will still need this Apple Developer Program membership to publish my apps. The best part about it is it comes with 25,000 free service API calls per day. and it's per day, not for the entire month. So if you think about it that way, we are paying the membership fee to publish the app on the App Store, and we are essentially getting this Maps API as a free bonus that we can use to build this startup here. Everything is pretty good because it's Apple after all. I don't have to deploy anything, I don't have to maintain a data set, I don't have to make my own algorithm to perform the autocomplete search. Everything for the Maps part is handled by Apple, which will allow me to focus on building the application more. And one thing I forgot to mention why Google Maps is actually the worst option for this. So I was thinking, since the API cost is so expensive, right, why not we just cache the Google search results into our own database? Then each time a new user search for the same location that has been indexed before, we will just have to fetch it from our database. But no. If you look at the terms of service for Google Maps here, it says that you're not allowed to cache or pre-fetch any data in your own database without calling the API. So right now I'm going to enroll into Apple's developer program to get access to the Map API. So here we are, 148 SGD for 1 year of membership to get access to the Apple developer program. Alright, I've just checked out and they have sent me a confirmation email, but it says that it is processing my payment. Like, what? So if I go to the Apple portal here, it says that it will take up to 48 hours to process my payment. So is this considered a fail? Because I can't be waiting 48 hours for this thing to process to build my startup when I have to build it in 24 hours. So hopefully they will get back to me soon, but in the meantime, we will do some groundwork for the other stuff first to get the thing kickstarted. Alright, they just sent me an email saying welcome to App Store Connect, which I believe this means that we are successfully into the Apple's developer program. So the most important thing, or rather the least important thing, is what do we call this startup that we are gonna build? I've been thinking for it a little bit, and I think the name that makes the most sense is Bean, which is a short form for been to. I've been to this place, I've been to this country, so that's where the name comes from. But the problem with such a common name, and especially if you use English words in your domain, and especially because this word is only 4 letters, which makes it extremely expensive to buy like a .com domain, maybe like a bean.com or bean.org. Or so what I found here on spaceship.com, I believe is a sister company of namecheap.com, which is a domain provider. So I found this domain called bean.place, and for $20 a year. I think this is a very nice name because Bean Place. I've been to this place. This is a pretty nice domain that I found, and I'm just gonna check out and use this name now. So we're gonna officially call this startup bean.place. So right now, if you're watching this domain should be live with the entire system that I built here in just 24 hours for you to use right now. Try it out and let me know if it works for you. And let me know how useful is this system for you, and will you be willing to pay for a subscription to using a convenient platform like this. Alright, I've just checked out and bought the domain. We are bean.place for 19 Singapore dollars. So if you're wondering why I bought a domain just to test a startup, it's because I mentioned this at the start of the video, right? The goal is to make this a production ready platform, not just a random startup that I'm doing that I can just throw it away after this video. It is going to be a platform that I'll continue to develop and work on and hopefully use every day to make my life better. If you're just testing a random idea that you have, or you just want to test the market, I don't recommend this. But I usually like to make things more official when I build things, because there are a couple of things that require a proper email address, like sending off emails. If I want to send an email to my users from the platform, I will need a domain name to send it from. And signing up for other platform services specifically for this startup will make it easier as well, because I can just sign up with that domain's email rather than using my general email that will have everything combined into one. And sometimes if you're also a software engineer or software developer like me, you sometimes feel that adrenaline rush. You get that very sick idea that you want to build. You just think that this idea is so good, people will just line up and queue to pay for your service when you launch. But that's not it most of the time. So this is actually one of the ideas that I had a long time ago. It has been so difficult to track places I want to go when there's so many platforms that I'm tracking places I want to go, and it just gets lost in the end. We just forget where we want to go, the places that we want to go, and places that we have already went. And that is what I'm trying to achieve with this platform here. Alright, so now let's maybe draft out a simple map on what we are going to build for Bean. So we're calling this system Bean, And essentially we want a list system where users can create infinite amount of lists and they can include an infinite amount of places each list, making each list easy to search, add new places, delete places, and find places in each list. We have a list system here. Each list has a bunch of items, and by default, a list that should be in every user's profile should be their one goal list. Went, maybe we can call it into. Then we can have two other lists. We'll go again. Then another list. I'm not sure what this list should be. So I think by default we just have 3 lists. These are more of personal lists, and then these ones will be custom lists that they can create on top of the default ones to classify maybe certain types of places, be like a cafe list or maybe like a Bangkok list. To improve this even further, we are gonna make this work or itinerary based list. So for a list like this that is specific to an itinerary, let's say we have a list of items, you can segregate it to maybe we have an option which will be a bit complicated, and they can slot in a bunch of items into each day here. You can just simply click on it, and then this will automatically route it to their bin to place, as well as remove it from the one to go. Maybe we can make it a setting to make it automatic or not. I think the bin to one makes sense, because when you bin to a place, this one will automatically slot it into the bin to here. And it's pretty much the foundation and the core of how the app should be run. So in terms of the social network, we'll have a home feed, which functions pretty much similar like any other home feeds of any other social network. With like different posts here. So if I add a certain place to my bin to list, this will automatically trigger an action. It will create an automatic post for your social network to know that you have been to this place. Maybe we can allow users to post reviews that are authentic rather than the ones on Google. We maintain our own review system as well. Each post can have like a bunch of photos and a review, and this will be a place that we have visited, where we can have a map of all the places that they have went, and then we can have like a search bar here. So it's actually a pretty easy system to build within 24 hours. But I would say there's still some difficulty in terms of getting the system fully functioning, especially when we are dealing with a map system like this. Thankfully, we are going with Apple's ecosystem, so it's already taking care of the map part for us. So what I have to do is just the functionality of the app. Most of the foundation and everything has been lifted off from me already. I just have to build the core functionality of this app. So first things first, we are going to wrap Cloudflare in front of our domain, so you can have the additional layer of security in front of our domain. So it's actually pretty simple to set that up. So now we have got the Cloudflare hooked up to the domain provider. Now we just have to wait for the name servers to resolve to Cloudflare's name servers. So right now we're gonna start building the platform. So in case you haven't watched my previous video, I've been building this startup called the Cosmic, which is a system to build your own custom AIs easily. Within just seconds, you can get your own AI up running. So we're gonna just copy paste this entire system into our base code for bean.place. I've spent the last 6 months building the Cosmic into what it is now. So currently the Cosmic is still in private closed beta, but I am planning to release it into an open beta sometime in end August or September. So what we're gonna do is reuse most of the code that we have there, because I've set up the authentication, the roles, the groups. I've made a lot of the parts reusable. Which is why I took 6 months to build this, because I wanted to make as many reusable parts as possible to make it such that I can build new products by using it as a boilerplate code that I can instead focus on building the application. So for context, the front end I'm using Next.js 14 and the back end I'm using .NET 8 for my API. So right now I'm gonna try to figure out how we can call this API using a REST client first before we actually go ahead and build something. So according to the docs here, I have to create a maps identifier and a private key first, and then I have to use that key to generate a token through the API endpoint. So it has been a couple of hours since I last updated. So right now it's actually 7:48 p.m. So it has been about 6 hours in, and I roughly have the base foundation set up already. I just need to get the basic functions in now because it took me quite a while to get everything sorted. So I've come out with a very basic rebrand of the Cosmic website to Bean Place. So this is what I have right now. So I spent the last 3 or 4 hours or so tidying up the code base, as well as implementing the APIs for calling the Apple Maps API, as well as storing it, caching it on my database, and then combining it and returning it to the front end. So when someone calls a query like this, like the autocomplete here, it will essentially fetch any cached data places from my database, and those that are not cached yet will be fetched from the API, will be fetched from the Apple Maps API and stored on my database. So this makes it a lot better. If we want to index a place or show a place detail, we can immediately find it from our database, and there will be no need to call Apple's API anymore. And so when I ran the API and registered an account, there was an error that's related to the email domain, which brings me back to the point I mentioned earlier. I need a domain to send emails from. So I got that hooked up. I set up the email routing to my email address via Cloudflare. Let me know if you're interested in a tutorial on how to get free mailboxes from any domain that you own through Cloudflare, because I only recently figured out how to do this because I've been using Cloudflare to route emails to certain domains I own to my own Gmail account, but I couldn't figure out how to send emails from my Gmail account with the domain name that I have. So I already signed up for Resend. This is the provider that I'm using for sending emails, which is pretty quick and easy to set up using the SMTP server to send. And I've set up the domain here, hooked up to Resend. So if I were to register right now for a new account, it should work. And also I decided to make the bean icon as my logo here, which technically it makes sense, right? Because it's a bean and the app is called Bean. So if I sign up here, it should work. Alright, it didn't work. Something went wrong. Alright, turns out there was a misconfiguration for the domain in the app settings. So right now I'm gonna try again. Alright, there we go. We will be redirected to onboarding flow. So now we have an account set up on the Bean platform. And I decided to go with the yellow color theme, but I'm not too sure on what exactly should the color theme be yet. I'm just going the yellow right now because it kind of makes sense with the name Bean to be yellow. But yeah, I might change the color theme later. After some struggle, we finally managed to log in and get it working. So right now I'm just going to maybe touch up the UI a little bit, move the nav bar to a horizontal one, to a mobile kind of nav bar, and then we can see how it goes from there. Alright, time check. It has been a while since I last updated, and it is now almost 3 AM in the morning. So right now it's already 2:42 AM, and I think I've only achieved like maybe 70% of the app functionality. So let's show you what I've done so far. So I've already integrated the map kit view into the page here under the map page URL. So it takes up the whole screen, and there's a navigation bar on top which will lead to the other pages. So nothing much on this page. It's pretty much just a plain map view that you can zoom in and zoom out. So if we go back to the home page, I'm reusing this from my Cosmic and create a new list, which you can call it some list that you want, and then it will redirect to that list. And for now, this is not done yet, but this will have like a list of locations that you have added to this list. So there's this global search here where you can search for places. Let's say we search for Lola's Cafe, and it will simply call the Apple Maps server API and load up a bunch of places that match the place you are looking for. And this is grounded on your location as well. So you actually show the places that are nearest to you, sorted by the distance. So the ones on top will be nearer to you, and the ones below will be further from you. So I managed to get the caching to work. I cached all the places information into my database here, all the details that the API has returned to me, so that we can retrieve it faster. So if you were to look for the place, this page will pop up. It is a page dedicated to that place, and then we have the location here, the map view, and then the post will appear under here. So that's basically what I have so far. Not much done, but I would say most of it is there and we are running out of time already. I will see what else I can do within this few minutes before I go to sleep. I was troubleshooting this issue with the Apple Maps token for so long. I think I took like 3 hours debugging the token issue. So if you want to call the API, you have to create your own JWT token by incorporating all these details here, which first you have to create a private key as well as an identifier, and then pass it in here, put in the key ID issuer, which is the team ID of your Apple developer account. So I already created the JWT for this, and I was using this token to call the API, but it kept returning me forbidden. It took me 3 hours to realize that there was this line here. For the next step, go to generate maps token, and then you have to call this endpoint using that token that you have just generated by yourself and get a new access token from them. So essentially there are two tokens. One is for authenticating this endpoint to get the access token that you will use, call the other map endpoints. I am so tired. This part literally took 3 hours to debug, and it took the most time. If not for this issue, I would have probably done most of the features already. But yeah, nothing much we can do now. I'll just see what else I can do within this short period before I go to sleep. Alright, it's a brand new day. It's currently 12:44 PM. We have about less than an hour to the time where this 24 hours challenge expires. Let me show you what we have so far. So this is the landing page I showed before. I've just updated a screenshot of the map view here in the bottom, so it looks much better than the previous one with the old cosmic sample image of the dashboard. So nothing much on the landing page. If you go to the dashboard here, so this home page, you can see a list of your lists, but this page is supposed to be a list of posts. Maybe you can still keep the list of your list on top here, and then the below will be like a community feed of where people are going and people want to go. So the community feed, not done yet. And the search, we can filter by the list that you have. If you go to the list, this is the list view of the places that you have added to this list, and this will be like a map view of the pins of the places in this list. A lot more work has to be done here, like rendering the pins and easily removing and adding new places from this list. So if we go to the settings here, we can change the name of the list, and then we can also add other members to this list. So if you go to the map view, so this map view is also very much incomplete. Right now it's very much just a map view with nothing in it, but you can press on different things in the map to see what is it. But right now, since API doesn't really provide the icon information, the opening hours information, so it's a bit hard to render custom components on that. We have to use this new component that they just released in this year's WWDC. So if you click on any pin here, it will show like a card of the place details. All these details are not in the API, so there's no way to retrieve it at all. So we have to use this card to render this detail here. And there is this page that allows you to search by places. So if we go to this box here, it will find the place and then it will drop the pin at the place like this. Pretty cool. But they did not provide the sample source code for this, so I have no idea how we can do this, because if you zoom in and you click like on other places like this, it will still support this card here, but I have no idea how we can detect clicks on the map as of now, because the documentation for this is so bad. I literally can't find much information in integrating Apple Maps into my application from the docs at all. I have to Google, use ChatGPT. It's a mess. So rightfully, there'll be like a card here for the users to filter the list that they have, and then it will render the pins accordingly on the map. So that is a lot of work to be done, and it seems like that can't be done within 24 hours. And then we have a tab here for the notifications that is completely blank right now, and we have a tab for the user's profile. This will lead to your own profile where people can see your profile, your lists, your places, and it completes the whole social community aspect of this platform here. I would say it's about 70% done. The rough base features are there, like adding the places to the list. If you go to the place here, it will show the location name, a map of the place, and then here will be the recent posts. So you can click on this to add to your list, but right now it only supports one and there's no display of this location is already in which list. So if I click on it, it will update it and then it will still replicate it for a third time here. I've also created a LinkedIn page for this already. Why not, right? And we've got a logo here, but I've not generated the favicon yet. So right now I'm going to prioritize deploying this to the cloud and serving this platform to the bean.place domain. So right now I'm creating a snapshot of the existing Cosmic server over on my Hetzner cloud. So I typically use Hetzner to deploy my servers because they are super cheap and they perform so well. For the price you're paying, the specs is really very good compared to the other cloud providers. So I'm just waiting for this to complete and we can create a new VM of this snapshot here. Then everything like the database, Nginx, reverse proxy, the server, everything will be set up nicely already and we don't really need to touch much on the deployment from there. So right now the snapshot has been created. So we're just gonna head and create a server in Nuremberg and we're gonna base off the snapshot here and we're gonna use the shared vCPU for around €7 a month and we're just gonna deploy that. Well, the time now is 1:28 PM. We managed to deploy it. 1:28 PM. And this is what we have. An internal server error on the domain. So I've been trying to set up the deployment for CI/CD as well as the staging server, and the database hasn't been even set up yet. I'm still missing the environment variables, so let's see how much longer this will take. Alright, the time now is almost 5 PM and I've finally deployed the application to the cloud. So this is the domain bean.place. You can go to this domain right now and you'll see this. Yeah, I've pretty much deployed it and it's 4:55 right now. It's like 3 or 4 hours late from our initial 24 hours. So I wouldn't really consider this as a fail. If we were to exclude the deployment, this will still barely consider like a pass because we got like most of the very foundational features up already. So over the next few days, I'll touch up a bit more on the application and maybe by the time this video comes out, it will have a bit more features for you guys to use already. And this is how it looks like on mobile if we were to install it like as a mobile app with the navigation below here. If you notice, the navigation is actually on top for the desktop one, but on mobile it's actually below. So if we go to the map, it works also. It works perfectly. The touch navigation, the zoom, I believe you can tilt also. No, you can't tilt, I think. Okay, I'm not too sure how you can tilt the map view here. But yeah, everything here works. The dark mode, it will turn to dark mode. You can search here and it works perfectly fine.